You are checking out Philly Funk Radio, Philly Funk TV, and of course, Power WVSR's YouTube page. We are live here, and we of course have, as always, Mr. Van Stone. Van, how you doing today?
I'm doing fine. And welcome everyone. Power, WBSR 1360. We're in Philadelphia. And of course, the time is 3:08 in the afternoon. So it's been a while. And we haven't talked in a while. We hope everybody's doing well. The weather is beautiful. So it's going to be a short segment, I'm assuming, but we're going to talk about what's going on.
Okay. So so anyone who hasn't been under a rock knows what's been going on for the last 2 weeks, of course. You know, we had the death of George Floyd, followed, of course, by the protests and the civil unrest where a lot of stores were damaged, including a lot of stores here in Philadelphia were damaged. And one of the main stores that was actually sustained a lot of damage was we have a chain of supermarkets over here called ShopRights. And the two that got badly damaged were owned by the Brown family. The Brown family ShopRights, and they were owned by Mr. Jeffrey Brown. And later on, we were lucky enough to get an interview with Mr. Brown, and he's going to talk to us about the ShopRights and about what happened and so forth. So I wanted to ask Van right now, did you have any specific topic that you want to bring up?
Well, yeah, I want to talk about everything that has to do with the destruction, the racism, the white supremacy, the white racism here in America. And of course, the death of George Floyd. Today, if anyone hasn't noticed or didn't know, the actual final resting funeral is going on today, live, as we are broadcasting our show. And so they've had so many people from the community to talk about him, his family, and give us a lot of information that most people wouldn't know. And it's very, very important. I want to say, normally funerals, I'm a person that don't attend funerals, So even for me to sit here and watch it, it's very unusual, because of the fact of the way that he was murdered. But the important thing is to know who George Floyd was, and out there in the community, you already have a whole bunch of negative people digging up the past and bringing out an arrest record or when he was dead, what was found in his system. So I just want to, really honor George Floyd because right now it's world shaking. And I do believe he's going to be the one new hero right now. Even though it's 2020, we have a new hero. We don't need another hero. And that's why. That's why I always say that. We don't need another hero because every time we have one, look what happens. The hero gets killed. In this case, George Floyd has been put in a situation, a beautiful bottle, with Martin Luther King and Malcolm X. And that's amazing. But if you check out anything about him and his history, he was actually a community activist. I didn't know that. So I just learned that from basically watching the family tell about him and how he did anti-violence intervention, anti-gang intervention. He was, I think, maybe a semi-professional sports athlete, and also he was a local athlete. He was an all-star from his high school, and I just think that what happened to him was a shame because he was out of work at the time, and so he was just, like all of us, trying to still find another means of income. So my thing is, when you talk about people and they die, you never know what's in their system, and it's so disrespectful for people to bring that out. And a lot of people bring that out. They may not be racist, they may not be white supremacists, but that's just something that they pay attention to. But we just want to try to relate information that who knows when you're going to die? Who knows? The last thing you put in your system. So nobody knows. So if a person is taking medication or whatever, if they're depressed, these are depressing times. That's not a negative thing on the person. As far as a history of arrest, that has absolutely nothing to do with the character of a person because we know these law enforcement officers, they're in jail now, and rightly so. So you can't, do the comparison. Oh, he had a record, and because the police officers didn't have a record at the time, these are the worst people that you can have on police force. So that's one topic I want to bring out.
Yeah, something that I noticed. Why is it that I notice something every time the police end up killing somebody? They always want to bring the person's criminal history into play. And the thing is, did the officers know this individual's criminal history at the time? Because if they did, and that somehow contributed to what happened, then that's even worse. That they would use that criminal record as a justification, basically for murder. Like whatever this individual may or may not have done in his past, just like you or I, never justifies the use of excessive force, much less killing someone. So I wish they would stop that, because the longer they keep doing that, the more this type of stuff is going to happen. And unfortunately, I don't think this is the last time this is going to happen. Because you could tell by the way that the police interacted with the protesters and all of these police that are being brought up on charges, they haven't learned anything yet. They still haven't learned. And it's like, when are they going to learn? What is the whole country going to have to be split before they learn?
Well, that's a good point. And I'm going to pick up on what you just said. It's really not about learning at all. It's the nature and the attitude of the people who get this job. For an example, we have to also bring in everyone that recently, that we know of, were beat up, abused, brutalized by police during the protests, or almost killed. Now, there were some people who they're not letting all the news out, but there was a few people who were actually killed between this time of, June 5th, starting of the protests, and until now. So that means that the police are still doing the same thing, and they're not going to change. Okay, the bad police. That's what we're talking about. So it's not anything to learn. These people are just people who every day they have the attitude that we're going to go out and destroy and be destructive. So that's one thing. The other thing is they had a 75-year-old guy, a white guy actually, who he could have died. Push, just by a push. And, he cracked his head a little bit, bleeding out his ear. And they just left the guy on the street. That's a white guy. So the thing is, when it comes to police, that's why they said the code of blue, it's total racism. And people, again, I try to explain this. You can be the same race and still be a racist if you do damage toward the same race. That's what racism is about. So here's a white guy. They could have killed the guy. They didn't really care. And then two of the officers, they were charged right away. So we'll talk about that another time. You know what I mean? How quick justice is for when white damage happens, when black damage happens. But
that charging was really quick. There was a couple of other incidences involving, I guess you would say, Caucasian protesters that were manhandled by the police, and those police were immediately discharged, and in some cases, like you said, brought up on charges. And I'm like, well, why is it that those are immediately charged, but they basically murdered this man, George Floyd, and it basically took protests, all kinds of stuff for them to even get charged with. First, they charged third-degree murder. Now they're like, oh, well, let's put it up to second degree. And each part of it was a fight. They weren't going to charge him at all.
That's right.
And it's like, like I said, what is that disparity like right there? Why is it taking so long on the one end with us, but then on the other ones I say, and I'm sorry, and like I said, don't get me wrong, anybody listening, I have white friends, but I'm just pointing out an issue that does exist. You can notice over the last week and a half of what was going on with George Floyd and what was going on following these protests and the quick charging of these people involved in this. So even you would have to say, yeah, they got charged really quick. So, I just,
Yeah, well, it's three things to look at. One, we look at when a white person is attacked, how swift the so-called justice goes out. When a black person gets attacked, it's basically nothing really good happens for the black person who's a victim. And then there's the third part. When you try to get these terrible racists and supremacists who are doing these things, attacking as police officers, then you have all the support actually come out and support the violence that was done to the average citizen. So in the case of the 75-year-old man, the two officers, when they had to have their hearing, they had almost a whole police force, one, quit. Then they had other officers come to the trial and outside and wait for whatever it is that they were going to accuse them for. And then when the officers came out, the difference is, well, they were able to get out. They were able to get out when it should have been, no bail for something like this. This was a federal crime, a federal arrest for, a federal situation. But what was really mind blowing is that how they were applauded. The two police officers who did this destruction were applauded by all these other people, and mainly most of them were white males. So that's the thing. You're not going to be able to just make a change by protesting or talking about it. You have to have some action, which right now the city council, where George Floyd lived, has decided something fantastic. I said this before the show, Jerry. I said that it should be something where the police can just go out and shoot the police. When you see someone committing a crime, the police officers should just be able to come on the scene and shoot that police officer. So far, we haven't gotten there, which needs to be done. But what they are saying, defund the police department, which means, just fire the whole police department. Now,
Well, what
that's
do
a
you?
big issue.
What question? If they and I was actually going to ask you this, when they say defund the police, what would they? What would you suggest to be to put in place? Because I know right now we have a huge crime problem here
Right.
in the city of Philadelphia, and do you think defunding the police when there's tons and tons of crime, do you think that would only add to the frustration and confusion? Because if you're defunding the police, now the ones that are still remaining on the job are obviously going to be working longer hours. They're going to have less resources and probably have less training. So maybe you could correct me if you think I'm wrong, but wouldn't less financing to the police departments, maybe that would lead to more of the same because of the fact that there's not going to be extra resources for the police?
Okay, great question. Let me help solve that because I have law enforcement background. Also, Jerry, the reason why I keep getting up, I'm looking to see if we're live on Facebook. I don't see it. So
We are.
that's why. Okay, great. I don't know why I can't find it. Okay, so here's the short answer. No, if you defund the police department, that is the best start, period. The other is again, change rules and laws where a police officer can treat that bad police officer immediately on the spot, just as if they would if they saw anybody else with a gun. Okay? But so when you defund the police department, what that means is that you have the local state police always. This is what people don't understand. And the city council people, for whatever reason, they should have made it just as simple. Then everybody would get it. So if you fired the whole police department, you would not be without police. You always have the state police.
Well,
You
so
have
the state police are worse than the damn city police.
okay, but here's the okay. That might be true, but let me answer the question.
Okay,
That
go ahead.
might be true, but you have to start somewhere with their authority. Since it's the local police, they don't have authority over the state police. They can get rid of all of the local police. Okay, they do that. They have enough money to take that money in the defunding, and they can pay so that more state police officers can come in, so that everything will still be policed. Also, you have in most communities where there's a police department, you have university police. Okay, they have full police powers. So when they defund the police department, they can hire and bring in the university police to cover the areas. And then they can go further. You have what's called private police. So anyone with an Act 235, and in this case being a police officer, then there's an Act 121, I think, or something like that.
I
So
think it's
these,
I think it's Act 120.
yeah, Act 120. So then these are also things that gives them the authority to work as police. So that's your short answer. They can defund the police department. They will have less money, but the police are not doing right. It's just like a business. If you have too many complaints, what do? You fire all the wrong people, and then you bring in new people. But at the same time, you're going to have a cook in there. If the cook is bad, you're going to fire the cook, but you always have somebody else who's going to be able to prepare. And in this case, if you have a great police chief, or in some cases it's called police commissioner, most police chiefs that I know of and looking at the situations are pretty good. So if that's true, they could get rid of the police department, keep the police chief, and then they could just keep it moving. So that's what they need to do. They need to defund the police department so that these police officers will be out of work. That's what they need to do. They need to put them out of work.
Okay. All right. I'm gonna go to like I said, we're gonna be real short today. So I'm
Okay.
about to go to the interview that we did with Jeffrey Brown. But speaking of the supermarket, do you have any thoughts on the damage from last week? The damage that was caused by all the rioting and looting last week. Like, the funny thing is, a lot of that was going on right near where our other studio is.
Right.
So, like we seen on TV up at the Sunray Drugs right there on 51st and Walnut, right there where they basically tore the whole thing apart and they ran up and down 52nd Street and they just basically demolished and destroyed. Now, here's the funny thing about this, and I don't know if I mentioned this to you yesterday. I actually have been going around the area, and I've actually been seeing people with tables set up and actual like blankets and stuff set up on the sidewalk selling the stuff they stole. So, like, I wanted to get your thoughts on that, like, about all that looting and stealing, like they were stealing from their own
Right.
people.
Right. Well. Okay. So two things. We have to make this very clear. I'm glad you brought this up. The people who were responsible for the attack, it was actually an attack on every major city, big city in every state. When you have something like that coordinated at the same day and almost at the same time, day or night, then it was a real organization. Okay, the organization was white racists and white supremacists. So what happened is you see black faces. We don't know in the structure. They actually target each city. Okay, and they knew just where to go and which stores that they want to hit. Whether the lead people in the front who were doing the destruction, you see black faces, but those black faces were being led by white people who were there in the crowd with them. I guess just making sure everything was going the way they wanted to do or go. Now they didn't have walkie-talkies, but they used cell phones. So most of the time when you have a bad situation, especially if it was a robbery or something like that, you have a lookout person, and then you have the ones in the forefront. The ones who do all of the damage and the physical activity, they're not the brains of the organization. It's always the ones who, they don't plan to get caught. So they're there to make sure this is going, and they were supplying them with rocks and smoke stuff and all kind of things and destructing.
Well,
That's very important.
Well, did you see they were finding skids, pallets of bricks strategically planted in the different
Right.
cities within the United States, and then they were like, "Wait a minute, something's not right here." So yeah, it was
Right.
organized, and
Right.
and the funny thing is, the white supremacists we're trying to put it on this other group, Antifa. They were dressing up as Antifa members to get them,
Correct.
to get them in trouble. And that's when President, I don't even want to say his name, came out talking about they're going to make Antifa a terrorist group. And remember, at one time they were even talking about making Black Lives Matter a terrorist group.
Oh yeah.
I mean,
Oh
they
yeah.
always talk that crap. Like, they'll let the white supremacists go to the steps of the Capitol with guns and shotguns and AR-15s, and you got no military, no police, no nothing. They'll be like, oh well, it's our Second Amendment right. But you get
Right.
people peacefully protesting, and something that you mentioned earlier, this police officer down here that was just charged. He was an inspector, Joseph Bologna, and he was just charged, and he turned himself in the other day. And what was disgusting to me was when he was turning himself in, all of the people that were standing out there going, "Good job, good job." Basically, what he did, he basically was roughing up kids. Basically,
Right.
the little college kids that were out there protesting. I think he was like beating them with nightsticks and stuff like that. So he got charged. And like I
Right.
said, it's disgusting because they were out there saying, "Good job, good job, good job." You beat up someone's child, and these people, these sadists, are actually out there, actually promoting this and saying that he did a good job. No, he didn't do a good job. He is one of the cops that we're talking about and caused all of this crap to begin with. And
Correct.
then you have the union president, which I understand he's the union president. And I can't remember his name right now, but we call him No Neck. So, I forgot his name, but he's out there talking about, anytime the police do anything, they get literally kicking someone's door. And this has happened. Remember when the police went and tried to serve a warrant and they ended up killing somebody that had nothing to do with it?
Right.
The union president came out, well, we got to see more and we got to see more. Dude, I understand you're the union rep and I'm in the union myself at my job. And hey, but come on, enough is enough with that. Come on, man. Right is right and wrong is wrong. Union my ass. Come on, man.
Right. So let me conclude with the supermarket, which was the ShopRite, which was really very important market for the poor community and the communities that were attacked. Mainly, they were poor whites and black people. You see how that all makes sense then? So as long as it was a neighborhood where there's middle class whites, they did not attack that. Now downtown and all of the major cities in all the states, then they targeted where they knew it was merchandise or they could be destructive as an embarrassment. So that was their strategy. So then, fortunately though, the shop right here that we're talking about, luckily, fortunately, they had enough money to recuperate because you never know. You might see a big business, you see all kind of traffic, everything looks like they're making a whole lot of money, but you really don't know the situation. So we do have to commend the owner of the shop, right, Mr. Brown, for Mr. Brown, right? It's Mr. Brown, right?
Yeah, Jeffrey Brown.
Okay, Mr. Jeffrey Brown, we have to commend him because at least he kept his financial going correctly in order to maintain the store so that if something like this would happen, it only took a few days where renovation could be done. The old food, it was given away, which was wonderful and beautiful. And then to reopen so that, now people can go back into the store because this is the only location for a lot of people who don't have access to cars or transportation, And also, last but not least, with ShopRite, it's a little different. You have certain people who are essential workers besides the direct employees for ShopRite. This is what I do know about ShopRite. They also have people who do, they don't call them Uber, they call them packs. But it's pretty much the same thing. They let them be independent workers. They have to have car insurance. And a lot of people rely on them where they're a little cheaper, where they can get home quickly and get their groceries and things like that. But that put those people out of business too. So it's just amazing that thanks to him, that he was able to get the store reopened. And that's the neighborhood is up and running again.
Okay. So on that note, we're actually going to go we're actually going to go to the interview that I did earlier with Mr. Jeffrey Brown of the ShopRite. By the way, Van, I can't mute you, so just to let you know, your mic is going to be hot through the
Okay,
interview until we come back.
no problem.
All right. So anyway, let's go to this interview right now, right here on Philly Funk Radio and Power WVSR TV. Okay, good afternoon, everybody. We are here this afternoon, and we have on video practicing social distancing, which we always are in favor of here. We have Mr. Jeff Brown, and he is the owner of Brown's ShopRite stores in the Philadelphia area, as well as the couple of adjacent counties. Jeff, how you doing this afternoon?
Good morning, Jerry. Thanks for having me today.
Okay, I wanted to start off real quick by asking you, because we have a lot of viewers and listeners that aren't from the area, and just give them kind of a little bit of background about who you are and what you do.
So I'm a fourth generation grocer, born and raised in Philadelphia, and from a young boy, my dad taught me the trade of the grocery business. And also, all four generations have spent a lot of their time in service to communities of color. So my dad sold, he sold his business when he got older, and I started 32 years ago with ShopRite. And we opened our first store in Philadelphia, and we now have 12 supermarkets, 10 ShopRites, and 2 fresh grocers, and about half of them are in communities of color. And most of them are in communities that were formerly food deserts. And they were in communities that tend to be low income and not to have access to food. And we became somewhat of a national example of how to end the food desert problem.
Well, I know Philadelphia here in particular. It's funny that you mentioned the food deserts. Like, I think your chain of supermarkets are really the only quality and actual affordable type of grocery stores in the area. I see other grocery stores in the area, and I will give this to you and your staff. Your stores are extremely clean, and your staff is extremely friendly. And what do you attribute that to? Like, what drives you? Like, what actually puts you on this mission to actually get these stores like running the way they are?
So to us, this is a calling that goes beyond business. When we started to do this work very intensely, we realized we weren't like a regular business, and we had to figure out a way when we're bringing in employees to teach them that we're on a mission that's much different. And we actually put a program together to teach new employees about our purpose. And we have a mission to bring joy to the lives of the people we serve. And we are very intentional about what we do, what we don't do. And every employee goes through a boot camp to learn about our ways. And to be honest, we're not for everybody. Some people come and they're like, I didn't sign up for this. I'm not going to stay here. But most people, most of my employees are very compelled by what we're trying to do for other people. And it's a way, like some people that want to have a life of service, it's a way to have a life of service, but focused on food access.
Well, I did notice, I actually worked with a couple of local organizations, and I do know that you do donate a lot in terms of like food and time and stuff to local organizations. I actually worked for an organization that benefited a lot. They used to get a lot of things from your fresh grocer chains. So what I wanted to ask you about, one of the things that I like too, I was out yesterday at the grand reopening yesterday over at 52nd and Parkside, and I'm going to ask you about that in a bit. But I noticed you have a lot of people working for you that would not otherwise be able to be hired at other places. And, I did talk to, a couple of staff. I actually know a couple of people that work at some of your locations. And, they tell me about how hard it was for them to find a job. And then fortunately, you gave them a job in spite of their criminal past. And, what actually inspired you to start doing that, where a lot of employers, won't give second chances to formerly incarcerated persons?
So yeah, that's a really good question, and we're really excited about our work in that area. But it was really when we were opening the Parkside location, we started a process when we started to do food desert work to have community town hall meetings, where I personally would lead a meeting that was attended by community leaders and interested community people. And in the meeting for opening the Parkside store, one of my customers very articulately laid out an idea she had. And she basically said, we really appreciate you. And I'm saying this because we care about you. And I'm worried about your success because a lot of your customers have been incarcerated. And if you're incarcerated, you almost can't get another job. And if you can't get another job, we're not going to make a very good customer. And I know this is a tough problem, but you seem like the type of person that could to solve this problem. And so I would ask you to figure out how to do this the right way and to master it and teach the world how you did it. And her remarks really resonated with me because I thought she was right. That is one of the pillars of structural poverty, of structural racism. That's one of the pillars that is so difficult to overcome. And it's so systematic. Like you could just tell your HR people, know people that have been formerly incarcerated, and then you're excluding a lot of people of color. And so in that opening of that store 13, 14 years ago, we hired our first 6 returning citizens, most of which are now in store management. And yesterday, when I was talking with them before they went up, they're all homeowners. They have families, they teach Little League. To me, it was a way to make structural poverty, turn it into the American dream that we all should have a chance at. And today we have 600 or 700 returning citizens working for our company. And we set up a nonprofit, Uplift Workforce, because I realize it's really hard for businesses to understand and to have the know-how to do this. And now, if you're in the food business, we will do it for you, Uplift Workforce. We will interview and recruit people that are prepared to turn their lives around. Sometimes they're formerly incarcerated. Sometimes they're still incarcerated. We have a relationship with the Philadelphia prison system. And, it's really smart when you're going to be released, train the person and get them a job before they get released. Don't let them just suffer and not have any income. And so we've been doing this for 3 or 4 years, not just for my own business, for the entire industry. And the success in every place we do it with has been just as successful. And so this is really just totally misunderstood by corporate America. They're under the perception that this is just some huge boogie monster risk that they won't be able to control. And the truth of the matter is, the way I see it, is we all have made mistakes in our lives. And unfortunately, sometimes they result in an incarceration and a record. And once you have a record, it's a life sentence as far as the impact on your income and your ability to work. And I think as a country, if we want to do something to address the inequities we have, we need to end this completely. And people need to be educated that this does not and should not be a life sentence.
Well, that's good, that you're actually doing that, because I found that some of the hardest workers are formerly incarcerated persons because they want to get out. A lot of times they get out and they want to do right. They want to do right by themselves, by their communities, and by their families. And it's kind of disheartening to get the door slammed in your face constantly because of something that you did in the past, and you're actually trying to make a change for the better and actually trying to, be positive in your community. Last thing I want to talk to you about is the reason for your reopening yesterday. What happened?
What do you mean?
Well, some people may not know exactly what happened at your grocery store. I was down there yesterday, and we had broadcast live, and you led a prayer service, which was great. But some people out there may not know, well, what was the grand reopening for? Why did it need to be reopened?
I see. Yeah. So if you didn't see it on the news, but I think it would be hard to not to see it. There was a lot of civil unrest in Philadelphia in the last week to 10 days. There was looting and rioting. There was also peaceful protest, which was very positive and moving, but it got out of hand. And in some neighborhoods, the police did not provide the protection that's necessary. And unfortunately, two of our biggest, most successful food desert stores were overcome by looters and destroyed. They were left in really horrible condition. We as soon as the next morning, as soon as that happened, there was an incredible outpouring of support from the community. Hundreds of people showed up with my workers and everyone that we brought, and we got to work in fixing those stores up because the people in the communities I serve literally didn't have food or medicine. And so we had taken all the fresh food that were in those two stores that the looters didn't take, and we donated it to the community to hold them over, until we could get them open. And we got both of those stores renovated, broken equipment, 99% replaced, and restocked within a week.
Yeah, that is amazing because I remember looking at everything on the news, and even I was saying to myself, it's gonna take this guy a couple of months to get back open, and wow, you're open in like a week. So it really must have took a real big effort on the community to actually pull together and actually get everything back open.
It was a tremendous effort, and it was a local community, but it was also people I do business with just know the importance of the work I do and the service to people who need it, and they rallied behind the situation. Another ShopRite owner had ordered self-checkouts that he was ready to get installed, and all my self-checkouts were destroyed, and he let me have his order. And so, that's why it would normally take 6 months to repair a store like this. But there was a tremendous outreach and just pure love for the work we do and getting us back and getting the community back what they need. And so it was really, I'd say, pretty close to a miracle because the stores look beautiful today.
Oh, yes, it does. I was in there yesterday. Everything's brand new. Everything's all nice and everything. Last question I have for you. Are there any more ShopRites coming? Are you going to open any more? I think we had one close on City Line Avenue, Haverford, and there was another one that just closed on 40th Street. Will you maybe trying to open up another one to replace those, or?
Yeah, the 40th Street store was owned by one of my colleagues, Pat Burns, and he lost his lease, and Acme took it. So it wasn't because he didn't want to be there; he wanted to be there. For the coming year, I have 2 projects planned that are renovation projects. So of my 12 stores, 2 of them are physically not representing my vision for how I want to serve my customers. And the first project's in Bensalem, right outside of Philadelphia. And we are going to totally renovate that store and make it a brown store that's one we could be proud of. And that project will start very soon. And probably early next year, we're going to do the same thing for our store at 24th and Oregon in South Philly. So we are busy with those 2 projects, which are big renovations. So we haven't added new locations, but I think there's going to be a national change in the climate of the politics of our country. And what we do is part of a comprehensive solution to make things right and make them equitable. And I do believe that more food deserts need to be eliminated. And we're committed to Philadelphia, and we're certainly believe that if the opportunity came up, we would step up and try to help more communities get what they need.
Okay. Well, thank you for putting so much into the community. So, I mean, we appreciate it. I know, I was born and raised here in Philadelphia, and I know in particular where I live near, as a matter of fact, I live 5 minutes from your Penrose store.
Oh, so, that store is beautiful now.
Yeah, I know. I was actually just in there. I just shopped in there yesterday. Yeah. So, anyway, thank you. Thank you for joining us this afternoon. I know you're a busy man. I know you got 12 supermarkets to run. So thank you for joining us, and have a wonderful day, Jeff.
Thanks for having me, Jerry. I appreciated our time together.
All right. Thank you. How was it? How'd you like that, Van?
Oh, great.
Okay, so hopefully we'll be doing more interviews in the future, and we have some people we're in contact with right now. So anyway, I'm about to wrap up real quick, but I wanted to throw it back to Van real quick and ask: is there anything that you wanted to say in closing?
Well, sure. We just want everyone to stay safe, stay well. The COVID-19 is still here. We know that they were going to relax, and they have. So right now, in Philadelphia, they're cold yellow, and so some of the stores are going to be open right away soon. But keep wearing your mask and your gloves. And I would suggest that regardless, even if they say all the coast is clear and everything is over, I will continue to wear the mask because they're looking forward into September where this COVID-19 is supposed to come back in a strong way. And, we can try to avoid that, especially in the Black American community where most of the damage is really hurting us in all kind of ways, including financially and oh man, it's just really hard. And we know that. So just hang in there. And we will be here for you. Reach out to us at, Facebook, Jerry Wilson Facebook, and Power WVSR, and Front Page News. And, send us a note or you have any questions. We will try to help you as best we can.
I did want to remind everybody out there real quick. If you go down to the Center City area, Center City or University City, please keep in mind that the Philadelphia Parking Authority is once again enforcing parking rules. So no parking zones, meters, towaway zones. They're being strictly enforced right now. And just keep in mind, the Parking Authority hasn't collected any revenue for the last 2 months, so they're out there and are going to be out there in force. I would like to give shout outs right now to Carmen. Carmen is out there checking us out. And also, shout outs go to a poet that I know, Miss Faye. Faye, thank you for watching this afternoon. Also, if you would like to comment, you can comment after the fact on, of course, on his Facebook. You can comment also on the Power WVSR page on YouTube, and we're also broadcasting live on Periscope. So, Van, thank you for joining us, and
All right.
we'll try to do this again tomorrow. All right? Have a good afternoon,
Okay.
everybody. Let me see. So let me go back. There we go.